What is up, everybody? Oh my gosh. It is so good to be live again. Let me tell you, anybody who is here right now, uh, Mudhog, hey, what's up, man? Yo, it is so good to be live again. It's been quite a long time, guys. I have been pretty busy. I had quite the couple weeks that I just put behind me. Lots of school, exams, etc., and nothing. I don't need to bore you with the details. But the important thing is I am back, and I got some good stuff for you tonight. Tonight we're going to be talking about Hadron, and we're going to be talking about um, how you can make money with Hadron advances and how you can potentially hack into an infinite money loop, if you will. Mr. E, hey man, it is great to see you. Actually, in fact, let me see something. Let's see if I can do this. Um, hey, Mr. E, you're now a moderator. You got the band hammer. Way to go, buddy. But yeah, so I'm gonna give it a couple seconds. I'm gonna see who all comes in. And then we're gonna talk about leveraged liquidity providing with Hadron advances. Mm. I'll go ahead and share my screen. All right, there it is. What is up, Blue? Meme investing. That's a solid strategy. It's great to see you. But all right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Let me see if there's anybody. Whoop. Yeah. All right. Yep. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. And yeah, go ahead if you have any questions during the presentation, just drop it down in the chat, and I'll get to it afterwards. So, for any of you guys who watch me, you will know that previously we talked about how to manage risk with Hadron. And the reason I talked about that first is because I wanted to set a foundation for the future strategies that I talk about, and risk management, specifically in terms of having backup Hadron to pull from when you take out your advances, is simply fundamental to everything that I'm going to be talking about in the future in regards to Hadron. So just as a review, the basic risk management is to have multiple HSIs and or native stakes and or Hadron you've bought off the market. I don't know if you guys have seen the price lately, but things are looking pretty juicy. And if you have a little bit of funds that you can go and put towards a more long-term investment, not the worst time in the world. But yeah, so this is essentially how it works. You take an advance, you owe a certain amount of money, and then over time you pay that off with some of your either liquid Hadron or you mint it from some of your previous stakes. What's up, QT Crypto? Great to see you in the house. But yeah, so this is kind of step one that you need to do before you get into anything that I'm going to talk about in this stream. And this stream is about leveraged liquidity providing. And this is really, really important because Pulse Chain and Pulse X is right around the corner. And the APRs and the LPing opportunities are going to be essentially a once in a bull market kind of opportunities, especially because this is the launch of a new L1 and the amount of users are probably going to be the lowest ever or near the lowest. So because the APRs and LPing are inversely proportional to the number of people that are participating in the pools, this is going to be some of the best times to get in and start earning yield within the Pulse X and Pulse Chain system as a whole. So this is the outline, for every leveraged LPing. You're going to make two HSIs or have native stakes or have Hadron liquid that you bought off the market. You're going to use one as a line of credit. So you're going to take an advance on that Hadron and you'll have some liquid Hadron. Then you're going to liquidity provide with the borrowed Hadron and then with that income that you're generating with your LP tokens, you're gonna pay back your advances with the income. So here's a kind of visual way to look at it. You have your HSI with your hex staked inside, and then you advance your Hadron. You take that Hadron and then you provide liquidity in Pulse X. Now, also in addition to providing liquidity, you can just buy Pulse X and single side stake that, because liquidity providing obviously comes with the risk of impermanent loss. So if that's something that makes you uncomfortable, then maybe single sided staking might work for you. And there are ways you can calculate whether or not that works out, or the math works out for you to be able to pay your Hadron advances in. But for this specific strategy, you're going to be using that Hadron and selling it into different tokens or one other token and pairing it with Hadron and throwing it in a liquidity pool. And when you do that, there's going to be an associated APR that's fixed, or not fixed, that is calculated from the fees that are generated from the volume within that pool, as well as any incentivizations that are voted on through the PLSX DAO. So after you provide your liquidity, you earn your fees and your incentivization token if it's incentivized. You then take these tokens and you pay off your advance from your HSI stake, and then you just repeat that ad nauseum. So you take your advance, you turn your advance or your debt, your leverage, into a LP token, which is an income generating asset, and you just use that income to pay off your advance. This kind of strategy is pretty similar to the traditional like business loan, where you go to a bank, you take out debt, and then you use that debt to generate a business that produces income. You pay off your debt, and now you're left with a business that is generating you income ad nauseum. The cool thing with this is that these HSIs are like a decentralized line of credit or decentralized credit card where you can continuously go in and borrow within the parameters of the Hadron smart contract. And so what that means is you can just borrow, earn with the borrowed Hadron that you took out. And then if you are able to pay it off faster than the 30-day payment rate that is native to the Hadron contract, then you can just repeat this and slowly build a pool of income generating assets over time. Now, of course, this is leverage. There's no way to get around that. We're creating debt, we're using that debt to create income, and then we're paying off our debt. So there are downsides to this. And say the price of Hadron runs away from you, where your fees and incentivization token can no longer make those payments. Or the value of your liquidity pool tokens just drops dramatically. And in that case, you wouldn't be able to sell it to pay off your advance in time. And because you've collateralized your hex that's been staked, you're going to get liquidated. And of course, nobody wants that to happen. I don't want that to happen to any of my listeners. So we're going to use the risk management strategy that we talked about previously to mitigate against this risk. And so, you have your HSI, you take your advance, you provide liquidity, and you earn your income, but you don't have enough yield to pay off your advance. You don't make enough. And after 90 days, the Hadron contract is going to allow your stake to be called up for liquidation and get thrown on the market. And at that point, you no longer have control of it. And this is the very last thing we want to happen when we're trying to build our bags. We don't want to lose our assets. So quite simply, you have your second HSI, your native stakes, or your liquid Hadron that you're buying off the market. And with your stakes, you mint your Hadron, and then you pay off your advance. So when you do this, you're effectively selling Hadron to buy the LP tokens. But this is just a last resort in case the income generating part is not sufficient to pay off the yield. All right. So that's it. It's really quite simple, honestly. You just use your advanceable Hadron and you throw it into whatever income generating asset that speaks to you at that point in time. I use the example of Pulse X in this scenario, but it really could be anything. There's a lot of cool things happening in GameFi. Phantom Network has a lot of great LPing opportunities, and as the crypto space as a whole grows and matures, especially with Pulse Chain, there are going to be a lot of income generating opportunities to take advantage of. And by no means is Hadron the only way to capitalize on them. But one of my goals with this channel is to show you how to use all of the different assets you own, obviously specifically crypto assets, to continuously produce you income to reapothecate or reinvest into more assets and get that compounding returns over time. And actually, this is a great comment. Maxi and the mechanics behind the Maxi token actually lends it to being a pretty decent asset to LP on, because the Maxi token is the Maxi token's value, excuse me, is proportionally, or not proportionally, yeah, proportionally valuable to the treasury within the system. It's going to increase in value, or theoretically going to increase in value proportionally to Hex's price appreciation. Because as Hex appreciates in price, the treasury's baseline value appreciates in price. And when you own a Maxi token, at the end of the 15 years, you are going to be able to redeem that token for the underlying Hex and Hadron. And when we're looking to liquidity provide, the golden ticket to LPing is proportional price movement, because it doesn't matter if the two coins you're LPing on move up or down, as long as they're moving up or down at the same rate as each other. So if one coin 10x's and another coin 10x's, you haven't lost anything. If one coin drops 50%, and the other one drops 50%, you haven't lost anything outside of obviously the value of the underlying tokens. The risk of LPing comes into play when coins move disproportionately to each other. So, with an evolving ecosystem, both within the greater crypto sphere as a whole, as well as within our microcosm of Pulse Chain, if we can find and match tokens whose fundamental value predicts or gives us a reason to believe that it will move probabilistically proportionally to some other asset, these are the kind of things that not only do we want to be LPing on, but as the people who are within the sacrifice set of Pulse X, these are the things we want to incentivize. We want the money to flow into assets or asset pairings that are beneficial for us to take on the risk of impermanent loss to earn these fees on. You know, um, that's just another thought. As people who are in control of the incentivization structure of Pulse X, being in the Pulse X sacrifice sets, we really have to be considerate and be conscious of the things that we are directing monetary energy towards. But yeah, um, those are my thoughts, and I wanted to share this quick leveraged LPing strategy with everybody, because I'm going to be continuously building off of it in future live streams. Um, the next stream I'm going to do, and because I have finished my finals, I'm sorry, one second. I have just finished my finals for school, and because of that, I'm going to have a little bit more time to live stream. So my next live stream is probably going to be about the Excel spreadsheet that I made to help you visualize and calculate out the risk associated with LPing with your borrowed Hadron across different platforms. And actually, if you go to Sam Salt's channel, I was on his stream with him and, Hex Orca, and at the very end, I kinda teased this, spreadsheet that I have, but I'm gonna share it with everybody, and, I'm gonna talk about that next. So, with that said, that's pretty much all that I wanted to talk about tonight. Let's see what is going on in the chat. Blue, thank you for the fire. Jawa, it is great to see you, man. I hope you've been doing well. Let me see. Jawa. Um, there you go. You got the band hammer, my friend. Yes, one more week to mint your maxi at a 1-to-1 hex to maxi ratio. I will say I did mint a very small amount of maxi relative to my portfolio size. Um, in my opinion, I think the question you have to ask yourself if you want to either mint hexi now or buy it in the future is, are you okay with those funds that you're putting into Maxi being locked away for 15 years? Because fundamentally what you're buying is a 15-year stake. So, independent of what happens with the coin price, as long as you're okay with waiting 15 years to get any kind of monetary return from that token, I think it's probably a good idea, or that's the sufficient case to purchase Maxi with. That's just where my current thoughts have been. I would love to talk more about Maxi in the future, and in fact, I have a flow chart that I created about how to potentially use Maxi as a vector for crowdfunding for philanthropic um, opportunities, philanthropic goals. But that is a future live stream. I gotta dull things out a little bit. Let's see. What's next? I'm split between purchasing Hadron or Moonbeam. Too many opportunities right now. Yeah, Moonbeam and the Kusama Polkadot ecosystem, I think is pretty cool overall. Gavin Wood, I mean, founder of Ethereum, creator of EVM, Substrate, etc. It's not a bad bet. I used to own Dot and Kusama, and I no longer do. Um, and the reason is it's just really early, for the Dot Kusama system. When I think about where I wanna put my money, my personal money, um, I wanna put it in places where things are happening, and right now, with parachain auctions and the entire Dot Kusama ecosystem being built out, I just don't see enough happening for me to hold the token. Not to say I won't buy it in the future, but me personally, um yeah, those are my thoughts on that. I think long-term accumulation will probably end up alright. See, any thoughts on OA and how that might impact the price of Hadron over time? At what point do you think Hadron may be able to start to realize its true value, in my opinion? Um, yeah, so the OA put up a wall of liquidity, that will limit Hadron's potential, but it will only limit its potential relative to Hex. So if Hex goes up, Hadron has more room to go up. Um, but honestly, I don't know. I don't know how this is gonna affect things over time. You gotta remember we're really bootstrapping and trailblazing a lot of the best practices, or what are going to be the best practices in crypto in the future, or at least the best practices for true crypto in the future. So the things that are happening with the OA and Hadron right now are going to be future um, are going to be things we cite in the future to either promote or disregard certain opportunities. So in my opinion, I'm just watching. I don't know what's gonna happen. But I'm gonna learn from whatever happens. Let's see what else. What do I think is a good pair with Hadron? I think Hadron and Pulse probably isn't a terrible pair, especially P Hadron and Pulse. Um P Hadron, E Hadron is an interesting pairing, simply because your bet is sorry, not your bet, but, like, you're gonna end up with more of the token that doesn't do as well on whatever chain. So if E hedron doesn't do as well as P hedron, you're gonna get more E hedron and vice versa. But at the end of the day, you're left with an asset that is a derivative of a B share that has paid out at a certain time. And so the question you have to ask yourself with the E hedron P hedron pairing is, do I care about what T shares or what T share derivatives that I own on what chain? Do I care which chain that they're on? That's the question I would probably ask myself with that pairing. Um, but yeah, Hadron PLS, Hadron across pairs, and then obviously probably a stable coin would be interesting. Yeah, that's about where my thoughts are right now. Let's see what else. How can Maxi go down? It seems like a no-brainer. Um, I guess the way it could go down is people just lose confidence in it, or and this is something I've been thinking about, because the timeline for redemption is so far in the future, it is possible that people might just dump the token for other opportunities, because fundamentally the value of Maxi is that redeemability in 15 years. Just like with a hex stake, you can't unlock it until if you made a Quattro Cinco stake, you can't unlock it till it's over. With Maxi, the fundamental value isn't unlockable until that max stake length is over. So if people get bored or like people are like, "This coin isn't doing anything. I can move my money somewhere else." That might be a reason it goes down. But that's the opportunity for people like you and me who understand this fundamental value to go ahead and arbitrage that difference, which, of course, for larger players who understand that is going to be the buy pressure that puts it back at parity with its fundamental value. So really, I don't know. It'll be it'll be good to see what happens. Hex Factor, what's up? Yeah, Maxi might be a good one to LP on potentially. So that bet, the Maxi P Maxi pair, um, that's essentially the same as the Hedron P Hedron pair. It's like, are you okay with ending up with more of the coin who's who the market has valued, who the market has deemed to be less valuable than the other? I haven't really fully thought through the EP LPing pairs yet. I think that'll be a good thing for me to think through because I think there's more to it, not just in terms of impermanent loss, but like fundamentally or like principally, what does it mean to pair two assets that do the same thing across different chains with each other? I think there's something there that I haven't fully unpacked yet. But if I figure it out, I'll let you guys know. Let's see. Yeah, Mr. E, I know you've been a big Maxi fan. It's been cool to I hope it all works out. I'm definitely participating. Um, yeah, maybe I'll get more Hedron after the mint phase ends, then start to get funds ready for Pulse Chain launch. Yeah, I mean, we are really in a special time. I think the pre-Pulse Chain launch is gonna be looked upon very similar to the pre-Big Payday launch, as well as the pre-Hex launch. You know, we pretty much see the, 4 more weeks meme resurfacing, except this time it's 2 more months. So yeah, I think everybody here now is just a new generation of OGs. Let's see what else. Um, oh, you know what? Give me 1 second. I am going to see if I can do something. Um No, okay. I'll figure that out later. I was planning to see if I could have some people on tonight, but I don't see the sharing link. So we'll do that another time. It'll be a solo stream tonight. Jawa, what you got? USD value only matters for taking profits. The goal should always be accumulate more than what you ever spend. Absolutely. I think that's very true. Um, obviously, USD is the biggest shitcoin of them all, and we don't really want to hold that, but at least me, because I'm in the United States, I need to have that to be able to live my life and acquire the basic necessities. So yeah, you're right. USD value only matters for taking profits. But at the end of the day, as people who believe in the crypto space as a whole, and specifically the Richard Heart ecosystem, as well as maybe any other ecosystems you're involved in, um, we want to accumulate more of our tokens that we're interested in. Let's see. What are your thoughts on the volume phase? Have an idea on when price will trend up? Thoughts on Richard Heart liquidity providing holding the price down? Heard that through the grapevine. Yeah, I think I talked a little bit about that earlier. I am interested to see what happens to Hadron after the volume phase. I think it's going to be really interesting because this is that max inflation. You know, like the soundbite that Richard always talks about. He's like, the best time to get into a coin is when there was the most inflation, when Satoshi owned all of the coins. For Hadron, we're in that moment right now. Um, so if we're going to continue off of Richard Hart's logic, this is the time to get into Hadron because we're in that 100-day launch phase where inflation is the largest. Um, but what happens after that? Honestly, my personal opinion, long term, Hadron does very well. Um, when you think about the fundamental value of Hadron, or like sorry, not the fundamental value, but the fair price, the fair value of Hadron. What that is the dollar value of a B share divided by the average stake length. And this will give you the average fair value of each Hadron token. And I haven't done this math off the current price, but I know that for a while it was about like 3 zeros, or no, 2 zeros and a 1, or 2 zeros and a 2. Either way, doesn't matter. It is a ton of X's from where we're at now. And when you break that formula down, the dollar value of a B share divided by the average stake length in days, what that formula is telling you from a literal standpoint, excuse me, is the amount of economic mass that needs to go into the Hex ecosystem to extract one Hadron token. Now, there are some, excuse me, there are some drawbacks to that formula. One of the drawbacks is that you're also getting Hex and a Hex stake, which is an income generating asset from, while also extracting that Hadron token. So it's not exactly the fair value. Like the dollar value of the Hadron shouldn't necessarily be that price, because you're not only getting Hadron for that amount of economic mass that you're putting into the Hex system. And I haven't really thought through how we could tweak that formula to better represent what the fair value of Hadron would be. But it is a good heuristic, and it is a good place to start to see where could this thing go, and why, and maybe to use it as a relative valuation of value against the current price, if that makes sense. Um, but yeah, me personally, super bullish on Hadron long term. I'm just gonna hold it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But from my perspective, thinking it through logically with a fundamental understanding of Hex and how Hadron interplays with Hex, um, it's a hold. Yeah. And yeah, I think this is a good point. Think of Hex Day 33. It's really, really hard to project into the future where these coins could go. Even with the crazy amount of precedent that we have with Bitcoin, Ethereum, Hex, 6.8, 6.9 million X with Bitcoin, 10,000 X with Hex. Even with that precedent, knowing that these things are possible, it is still hard, at least for me, to wrap my head around that happening with any of the opportunities that I'm seeing in front of me now. Yet, that's what happened. These coins did that. These coins appreciated in price a stupid amount of money. And when I ask myself, is this can this happen again? The logical answer is yes. because it's precedent. Because what's happening in the crypto space, from my perspective, is 4-minute miles being broken over and over and over. Bitcoin ran a 4-minute mile. Ethereum ran a faster 4-minute mile. Hex, if you look at the charts that look into Hex, ran an even faster 4-minute mile. And because Hex is essentially a mirror of a certificate of deposit or a time lock, which is a traditional financial asset, and because it is an encapsulation of value, at least in my opinion, the things that build on top of it that are able to capitalize on that fundamental value, at least from my perspective, I can't see why they wouldn't repeat some of that success, you know? But that's my opinion. Um, I've only been in crypto for like less than a year. And so I really try to taper all of these thoughts that I have against my experience level because I still have a lot to learn. Um, but I really appreciate anybody who's here right now, all 19 of you, just kind of listening to me ramble on. I appreciate the engagement. Um, let's see. Any other questions before I sign off? Yep, we have the recent past performance. Exactly. Yeah, exactly, Mudhog. Well, if there are no other questions, I think I'm going to end it there. Again, just to kind of recap, um, you can use your HSIs as a line of credit. And if you use that line of credit for an income generating asset, you can pay off those loans to repeat that ad nauseum to continuously build income generating assets. It's yield on yield on yield, baby. But I talked a lot about the positives of this, and I'm going to get into the risks in another stream, but just be careful. This is leverage and you can get yourself into trouble with this. Um, let's see, X City. Hey, I appreciate that, man. Thank you for your viewership. But yeah, okay, guys, that is all for me tonight. I gotta get to bed. I got a big day tomorrow. Um, let's see, we got 16 people here. I'm gonna do something that I am not gonna do very often. Let me see if I can do it. Uh, um, yeah, that invite via link, copy link. So I actually have a Telegram channel. It is a private Jawa. You're funny. I appreciate you letting me in to one of these moments. But yeah. So I actually have a private Telegram channel, and I'm gonna post the link here. And for any of the people who are here watching now, I invite you to come in. We have a lot of really cool people in this chat, and we just kind of hang out. We talk about crypto. We talk about what's going on in the market at a certain time. And at least while my viewership is of a humble size, although I appreciate all of your viewerships an incredible amount, I want to build a small community of people where I get to interact with them on a very personal level. And over time, if by chance my channel has success, the ability for me to connect with individuals is just going to decrease simply as a factor of my ability to give my attention to people over a large audience. And so I'm inviting you all to this Telegram chat because I want to thank you for being here early. And I want to thank you for listening to me in my ramblings. And so I want you to join my community. I would greatly appreciate it. I already see some of you coming in, so I really appreciate that. Um, thank you, hot college football girls. I appreciate the compliment. But yeah, so go ahead, drop in the channel. It's very casual. As long as you're respectful and kind and keep a positive energy, you're more than welcome to come in. Um, but yeah. So everybody, I hope you have a really great night. Thank you so much for listening to me. I'm going to be streaming more in the future. I have some slides prepared, some flow charts ready to go. And also, a little sneak peek, I would like to do some interviews in the future. Um, I would just like to interact with the community more, see where their heads at, get their opinion on the crypto as a whole as well as Hex. So you got that to look forward to as well. Um, but yeah, good night, take care, and I'll see you next time.